Hello guys, welcome back to Movie Reviews. In this episode we're looking at Jubilee from 1978. So this is like a very sort of cult experimental film from Derek Jarman. Derek Jarman, sort of one of the well-known British directors, very much innovative directors of all, of British cinema really. Interesting director of course. Life was cut short, of course. He sadly passed away from HIV. He was HIV positive, and I think about 1993, 94. I think 93 actually he passed away. And today I thought I might just check one of his films out. One film that I've been interested in actually covering on movie reviews, and this is Jubilee. I'm not sure if it's his first film, but I think it could be one of his earlier ones. Well, it's one of his earlier ones, really. It's from the late 70s. This is. So, what is this film about? So, Queen Elizabeth I, excuse me, pardon my history, chronicle, timeline, and everything else. Queen Elizabeth and one of her squires time travel from Tudor England to 70s Britain, of course. I'm not too sure what the reason why. I forgot the reason why they went there. But during there's been a lot of writing going on. Punk has arisen, and also anarchists have gone around just tearing and making Britain to a wasteland really, full of burning cars and just overall savagery really. To be honest, you've got actors like Jenny Runacre, Ian Charleston, and you've also got like the punk rockers as well. Because you've got Adamant in this film as well. Like before, he became successful in the 80s. So he found his footing in this film, along with a friend of his. I've got the name now. I forgot the name really, to be honest. But she was a friend of his that she sort of knew each other really through from college and stuff like that. There's a documentary called "The Madness of Prince Charming" to do with Adamant really, and she's involved in there really. Involved. I think like been old friends for many years back in the 70s really. You've also got Toyah Wilcox as well, just known as Toyah then, sporting a sort of like very short, orangey hair, of course. Goes by the name of character Mad, and also Adamant's character is just called Kid, really, to be honest. You've also got Jane County as well in this film. It's a film of its time really, because of it's slap bang at the time when punk was still a thing, of course. I think it's just maybe to capitalise it, or maybe take it in a different direction. I think what Jarman was really looking for, really. It was a very interesting experience. It was, you have great moments, of course. It's very visceral. It is a very visceral movie. From the only sort of interesting bits I can remember from is Adam and the Ants performing some of the songs, of course. I think like doing a video like how they performing on television, something, very much that's all like look of it, really. I do remember I forgot the name of the character now. The main leader, I think it's the same actress, Jenny Runacre. The only sort of I can distinctly remember is Toyah Wilcox carving some words in her back with a knife. I don't know, like it might be an anarchist symbol or something, or something to do with hate. I really don't know really. Or a name, I don't know really, to be honest. But there was like I want to make me a tattoo, and just sticks a knife, puts a knife, scrapes, sort of digs a knife into her back, and Vave just does that really. So make a blood tattoo, like a scar tattoo or something really. Also, there was a scene, of course, with I forgot the name. I think her name's Nels. I think the character, or the actual person, the character there. She meets a police officer in the laundrette, of course. I think what I remember was she was basically washing her clothes while just being semi-naked, of course. I don't know if that was a thing back in the day, really. Through the laundrette, just people walk in, just take the clothes off and watch, and just stand around half in the underpants, just waiting until the clothes are spinned and dried. Really, I don't know. But she meets this police officer. They go back to his place, end up falling in love and end up in bed together, and then then afterwards the gang. I think the gang turned up, or a bunch of a different gang really, turned up to his doorstep, and it explodes. They throw explosives at him, and it explodes like a comedy type style. Well, like an edit clip, and it's like that. I think that's how it goes really, because it's been a while since I've seen Jubilee. I recently got it on the dual store format from the BFI. I've mentioned read recently. Dual disc format. One's first disc is Blu-ray, but the actual second disc is actually a DVD. So you can have the DVD. You have the DVD version, of course, but you also have the Blu-ray version as well. So I think there's not much difference. I think you've got all the special features on both discs. I think it just depends on whether you prefer Blu-ray or DVD. What do you think, really? Yeah, that's just pretty interesting. Also, you've also got the gang, of course, is going around destroying things, setting fire to cars, baby carriages and stuff. And again, it's just like it's out there. He had a very interesting vision. He did. He really did. Very out there. How did I come across Jubilee? Well, because I listened to Adam and the Ants, I come across a single I did. It was the songs Deutsche Girls and Plastic Surgery, which you can find on punk compilations anywhere, really. There's always them, I've always had, my mum's always collected punk rock compilations, and those songs always appear in there. Plastic Surgery and Deutsche Girls. They are good songs, they are. I really do. I think they're good songs. So I remember getting I think I got it from my local music store, record store, really, back in the day, many years ago. And I saw it, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Of course, it wasn't released by the company, of course, I think by CBS or something. It was actually released by EG, it was, and he come from the soundtrack album. So I come across from that, really. And then I found out what the film was really about. It was like, oh, really? So this is pretty interesting. I actually remember watching it, I thought, So that was pretty interesting. Plus, Derek Jarman, I remember, directed It's a Sin by the Pet Shop Boys. I think he did, I'm not sure if he did more music videos, I'm not entirely sure. I know he did some other films like Caravaggio, I remember, with Tilda Swinton and Sean Bean as well. Quite a strong, powerful, illustrious casting, that one, really, in Caravaggio. And also, I think Brian Eno did some work for one of his last films, I think. It must have been, actually, because I think I found out somewhere recently that I know Eno did score one of his films, but I think one of his final films, I think his last film, I don't know, really. So there's a bit of interlinked stuff there, really. So yeah, plus, with you got Toy Walkers, of course, Ala, Brum, Teletubbies, Married to Robert Fripp, it's like that sort of thing. So it's an art film, but it's a pretty interesting film to recover. I thought it's a film. If you like punk rock or anything like that, so if you're in a mood for some 70s British punk, maybe give this a go and see what you think of it. It could be not for anyone's taste. It just depends, really, of the time, really. If you're into that sort of thing, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see about that. Right, and the second film we're going to cover in this interesting double bill is Betty Blue from 1986. So this is a French film, this is. It's based on a novel by a guy called Philippe Dejean, of course, from 1985. This is from 1996. This is directed by Jean J. Benex, if I can pronounce that properly. It deals with, and what it is basically, it's a psychological erotic thriller, really, or not really a thriller, more a drama film, psychological erotic film, really. It follows a couple, a guy called Zorg and a girl called Betty. Zorg is a struggling writer, of course. He lives in a beach house, of course, and he's stuff from writer's block, and also just down in his luck, really, to be honest. I think Betty comes in. I'm not sure how they really meet, really. I think they sort of knew each other, I think, from the beginning of the film. But they sort of meet up. I think she comes to see him, actually, and sort of, that sort of thing. But they meet up, of course, and Zorg, of course, gets bored with his life, really, to be honest. I think we're same with Betty, and they plan to just go away. He also had the sort of tenants or the authorities to do his beach house or something like that. Just involve that sort of thing, really. So in doing so, they burn down his beach house and go wherever. Maybe went to another city or wherever. And during that, of course, the time, it's. They leave on to that. They have their sort of strong sexual relationship. Really, well, technically, it is quite strong if you watch it. In terms of how much goes on in that film. So they move to a different town to do. They end up the rest of the place, just above a restaurant actually, and Zorg, of course, gets more. I saw he sort of picks up. He does with his writing, of course. Prove the love life him and Betty together. Fair enough, of course, and then things start to take a very sort of dark turn, of course. Obviously, Zorg and Betty think they're having a baby, having a child very much, and Betty's excited, of course. When she finds the results of, unfortunately, the thing like there's no results, you're not pregnant or anything, and she spirals down. She goes in a very she becomes very depressed and very unhinged as well, really, and in terms of all trying to really keep the relationship very stable, of course, Betty's just going down very down a dark path, really, in her, psychologically, of course. She ends up, cutting her hair, of course. She just goes through rough patches, of course. Just really feels unhappy, really, and it really definitely shows. I think because she was happy, with Zorg, of course, and also moved, start a family and everything else, and then just got taken away from her, very much, with the news like that, and she just hits it, really. Zorg just does the best he can with her, really. But the inevitable happens. The inevitable sadly happens. I think when Zorg, I think he goes to do some I'll meet someone, really, to be honest. I don't know, to do a business partner or something. He comes back, and an ambulance leaves the place where they were staying, actually, and he goes into a panic. I think the person who actually runs it or something, or a friend of his, tells him that Betty just went very able and she gouged one of her eyes out. You don't see it in the film, but it's implied that she actually took one of her eyes out, like actually stuck glass in her eye, very much. You see a bit of blood and a bit of like shattered glass on the ground, really. That's the whole thing. But you never see it, it's told, and you see like the after effects of it, really, like the damage of it, very much. And so Zorg's just gone, he's very, I'm trying to think of the word, just out of his depth, really, because his true love is just gone, it's took, just self-harmed her, just took one of her eyes out, really. And he visits her, of course, but the nurses just, say that she's just gone in a catatonic state, of course. And afterwards, they say, you won't be, and I think Zorg lashes out, really, and he's sort of like, it's like, they can't see him, or can't see her, not a visit. And then we come to the end, of course, which is, how to describe this? It's a bit, it's sad, but it's also a bit weird at the same time, really. So Zorg pretends to be a woman, and basically sneaks into hospital, of course, to meet Betty, who's just gone. She's just like in a coma type state, really, a catatonic state now, just like not speaking, just laying, just like she's dead or something, which she isn't, really. And he wishes her the best, all the love and everything else, and then smothers her with a pillar, while dressed as a woman, because he can't bear to see her in that sort of state, really, very much. And in doing so afterwards, he carries on with his writing, which apparently the one that I think actually Betty found earlier on in the beach hut that he was doing actually had proved to be successful, and so he started working on another one, of course, and it sort of ends off with him just living with a white cat now, interestingly. So it's a film to really get into, really, this one. I mean, if you're into French cinema, fair enough, or European cinema, it's probably interesting. Why am I talking about this film? How did I come across this film? Well, one guy introduced me to this, and that's Mark Kermode. He was doing the introductions to the BFI, because BFI Play has been doing all these sort of bits and pieces, of course. And Mark's just been doing some introductions, of course. This week on BFI, so-and-so, of course. It could be like The Company of Wolves. It can be Prick Your Ears Up as well. It can be something called Daisy, like a Czech Republic film or something. you know. And this came across, and I thought, it looks interesting. It's really 80s. It looks a bit interesting. I ended up watching it. Bear in mind, this film's 3 hours long. This film is 3 hours long, and apparently, the director actually did another version that runs for 4 hours. I think he also builds on the character of Beatrice Dallas's performance as Betty in that one, in terms of like how much you know she sinks to the bottom in terms of in psychology and everything else. It's like yeah. So that was recommended by Kermode. I thought, yeah, it's pretty interesting. The music itself is actually really good as well. Done by a Lisbon composer, Gabriel Gerd. Really good, interesting stuff. There's a lot of saxophone used in this film. It's quite haunting music actually with the saxophone, especially with you know, like the intimate love moments between Betty and Zorg as well. You know, listen to Isolated. You can listen to the score on iTunes and Spotify, whatever. You know, just listen on the internet. It's actually a really good one, really. A lot of interesting good music as well includes like for like some harder, I think maybe from harder moments. Like it's well 80s stuff, really, well 80s type of style in some places, but it's really good. Good use of like accordions as well. So it's very French. It's very sort of that type of thing, you know. But I really enjoyed it actually. You know, like even listening on its own, there's something about it that's sort of interesting. Yeah, and that's really about it, really, with Betty Blue. I mean, its original title is 37.2 Latin, or in its translated to English, it is 37.2 degrees in the morning. That's what it really is. That's what the English version is. I think they should have kept that, really. I might have been a bit confused, I don't know, but for the English, for people, when it was released in like in the States and here, and maybe other places speak English, it was Betty Blue, really, and people actually seem to love that film. You know, people had a door on the poster, with Beatrix Dal on the poster. Pretty interesting stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I've been talking about Jubilee from 1978 and Betty Blue from 1986. Just two really interesting, sort of like very art house type films, really. You know, sort of like have a cultural appeal to them. So I thought I might cover these ones. Pretty interesting. See what you think. Thank you guys. See you in the next video, and goodbye.